Gilbert, I'm going to say some very nice things about our next guest. I hope he doesn't tell Uncle Joe and Daniel Popper about it, but this compa hails from Huntington Beach, and he has the best car among all Chargers reporters. He's also the fittest because he's done countless marathons, and he's el jefe. That, of course, is Jeff Miller, Chargers beat reporter for LA Times. Now, Jeff, we saved the best for last. We now have had every Chargers beat reporter on Compas on the Beat. How does it feel being the main event?
I feel like you're making that up because I actually was the last person you could possibly want to put on here. I think that's the truth. So I appreciate the kind words, but let's be honest. You reached a point where you had to put me on. So I'm going to take it though. I like you guys, even if you may not want me on your show. But here I am. So let's let's try to make the best of this if we can.
Not true at all, Jeff. You get special treatment everywhere. I see the special treatment at Chargers training camp. That Miata, the red car that Fernando mentioned in the intro, you're parked on the field practically. You get the best parking spot at Chargers training camp. So, we see the special treatment. We want to give it back to you being the main event. But Jeff, we all love the car, the Miata. We need the backstory once again. We kind of know it, but I want our listeners to hear, what year that car is and how you kind of came about it.
That car is the first year the Miata came out. It was like, I think it was like 90, 91, something like that. Anyway, my best friend bought it. And he actually, at the time, to give you an idea of how crazy it was back then, he had to order the car and wait like 6 months to get it because it was like this new thing that nobody in America had ever seen before. So he had the car, had it for a few years, and then got married, had started having kids. The thing only has 2 seats, and it's about the size of like a Matchbox car, so you can't really have a family. So it sat in storage for a long time, and then I bought it from him. I don't even know, 10 years ago or something now. So it's like 30 years old, 31 years old or something, and it has like 80,000 miles on it. So it's 30 years old, but it's almost like brand new. So I appreciate the fact that the Chargers allow me to park so close. And the truth of the matter is, let's be honest, okay? So people will tell you why I get to park where I typically can get that spot. It's because it's right behind the media tent where we are, right? So it's right there, but right next to it is the porta potties for the media, and there's a little hitch that sticks out from the where the porta potties, the trailer the porta potties are on. That hitch actually goes into that parking spot next to it, and so it's narrow, but that Miata is so small that you can squeeze it in there. That's the reason why I'm usually the only person who can park there. So that is the story of the Miata, and I appreciate the fact you acknowledging my cool car.
Oh, we had to, Jeff. I mean, I'm always like, when I get there before you, rarely, but whenever I do, I always try and hitchhike with you because I know that you got the better spot. See, Gilbert and I, when we show up, we go for the spots that are open because we're like, what if we go all the way? The first day we went all the way down, and they told us, sorry, no, like there were some spots open over here, and the security told us no, to go somewhere else and park like where the fans were parking. I'm like, I'm not gonna go park all the way over there. That's way too far. So finally, they let us park where we naturally do, but I'm like, you know what? We got to find the early spots so that just in case if we don't find anything down there, we're secured.
Hey, Fernando, let me tell Jeff the story on that. Adding to that first day of chaos, yeah. Jeff, I haven't told the story just yet to anybody, but when you had your nice parking, you were there early, Jeff. Fernando and I came late. We're a little bit we're slacking there a little bit, but we came.
I had to print a parking pass for somebody.
That too, and we had to park somewhere kind of across the field. It was a nice parking spot, but it was across. You weren't really supposed to be there. It's for people with season tickets and coaches. So I'm shouting with the security guard, "Can I park there?" I kind of pulled out, "Do you know who I am?" kind of thing. Let me just park there, and I finally get there. And Fernando's telling me, no, go around. So I'm like all frustrated, and I back up without looking, and I almost hit a truck. And guess who's in the truck? Chargers quarterbacks coach Shane Day. So I almost hit his truck on the first day of camp. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I almost hit that truck now. But it was chaos. We got there, Jeff, and I'm glad you have the better parking spot that day as well.
That would have been totally awesome. What a great story for all of us to have had. That's it would have been a way for you to actually meet and talk to a coach in person, which would have been kind of almost worth running into him, right?
It would have been it would have been a story for all of us. Shane Day would have had to have spoken that day, and we could first question would have been like, "Coach, do you have insurance? How good is that insurance?" But Jeff, I mean, you've been covering the Chargers beat for a while, but you used to cover baseball for many years for the OC Register. I think now this is your fourth season covering the Chargers. How was that transition going from a baseball beat writer to now a columnist and NFL reporter?
Yeah. So I was a baseball writer. That's how I kind of got started back a million years ago. And then I was a columnist for 20 years in Orange County, just doing all kinds of stuff, all sorts of sports. And then toward the end of my career here, I got all of a sudden I'm back doing beat stuff again and doing football, which I had never done because obviously there was no NFL team here forever. So in LA. So I didn't write much about the NFL. Literally, there were years the only NFL game I went to was a Super Bowl all year. I'd go to one game; it was a Super Bowl. So I did that a few times, but it's been fun and it's been different. Obviously, this is something that I didn't think I'd be doing anymore, but you don't usually go back to being a beat writer after you've been a columnist, but that's just the nature of the business, and I got laid off in Orange County, and I wasn't wealthy enough or old enough to be able to retire yet. So I had to do something, and I fell into this job at the LA Times, and I'm really fortunate. And I'm not just saying this, but guys like you two guys are getting to hang out with you guys. You've made it a lot better and a lot more. I have a lot more fun than I probably should be having because this can be a grind. It can be a tough job. I think we got a pretty good beat. The guys, everyone gets along for the most part, and I think we all respect each other. And we have our little moments, but everybody does. So it's been interesting, but I enjoy it. And literally, I mean, you guys have made an old man feel a little bit better about my lot in life here. I could be a sour old curmudgeon-y guy, but I try not to be.
It's funny, Jeff. Technically we're supposed to be rival newspapers, so I'm supposed to not like you. Being for the Orange County Register, LA Daily News, like it's the LA Times, but somehow we're friends, and I'm glad that you're on the beat. With the LA Times, and you do great work there. I shouldn't give the shout out to the LA Times because we are rivals, but I love your work there, Jeff, and I'm glad you're on the beat. But you've been doing this for a couple of years now, or I think 4 years technically. I got there, 3.5 years ago, so we kind of been together on this ride as well for the Chargers. But it feels like every time it's July or August, and you start looking at the roster, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and there's always sky high expectations for this team. And there's an injury or a blown game, and they always kind of fall apart. But Jeff, do you feel like expectations are a little higher this year than usual because of Justin Herbert and the new head coach, Brandon Staley? And are you buying that expectation, or do you have a good amount of concerns for this team?
Yeah, I think the expectations are much higher. With what Justin Herbert did last year, changed everything for this team. Just imagine if this was Tua, or this was if Tyrod Taylor hadn't gotten hurt and we didn't know anything about Justin Herbert, and now he's a rookie and we don't know what he's going to do, or like I said, Tua, where you have questions of can this guy play? How's this going to go? Things would be really different around here, and they're not. I mean, everybody. It's kind of crazy. Like I think the expectations are probably a little too high, just given the fact that they've missed the playoffs the last 2 years, and there's a ton of unknowns with the coaches and how this is all going to go down. And so it's probably a little extreme, maybe on the expectations front. But it's interesting. The one thing I hope Charger fans appreciate is this team. For as long as I can remember, it has always been they've always had expectations. It's never been a situation where it was like, okay, this is a total rebuild. Team's got no chance. This is just kind of going to be a lost season or two while they kind of get resituated. Well, that's really hasn't been the case for the Chargers in a long time. And I don't even, Fernando, the history a little more of this franchise than I do. I don't even know the last time that would have been the case because it's because of the quarterback. They've got Herbert now. They had Rivers forever. Before Rivers, they had Breeze. So really whatever, however, go back to when
2003.
Brees first got here. They've had the one spot that's the most important, where you feel like, hey, we can win with this guy. You can win big with this guy. So I think hopefully Charger fans appreciate the fact that, maybe, I know they got frustrated with Phillip a lot, and that you can understand why, the way he, some of the games, the way some of those games ended. But he always gave him a chance, and there's always a reason to be optimistic when you have the quarterback, when you have a guy at that most important position. So I think that's why the expectations for this franchise have always been high, at least in the last couple of decades. There's no reason for that not to be the case now. But I do think it's probably a little extreme, because we know guys are going to get hurt, and that depth is going to be tested, and that's when you find out how good these teams really are, is what they've got planned behind a lot of those starters, because some of those guys are definitely going to get hurt. We all know it happens to every team.
Yeah, Jeff, there is a theme for the Chargers having good quarterbacks: Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert. But the other theme of the Chargers, bad offensive line play. They can't protect some of these guys. But I think this year they might have figured it out. But I feel like every year they kind of, they tweak it. They get some free agents, they get hurt, and it just doesn't work out. But I feel like it's a different kind of reload, drafting. That's the biggest thing, drafting a guy in the first round, Rashawn Slater, which they kind of ignored the left tackle position a year ago. Adding him, spending money on Corey Linsley, Matt Filer, Odi Abushi, and still having Brian Bulaga, who was a free agent prize from 2 years ago. But do you feel like that group could gel together and maybe solve that problem that they've had for years of protecting the quarterback?
Yeah, I think they have a really good chance. And we'll see what happens with Slater. But I mean, the early returns on him from at least practice, he looks good. And it's gonna come down to health again. We already know. I mean, Brian Bulaga is every snap you're kind of wondering. I mean, he just is kind of on. It seems like he's in a bit of a bad luck, or just whatever the situation is with him. He's just he's trying to keep it together. They're trying to monitor his reps and all that. So it's just, the thing is with this team, they're like all teams that when one guy goes down, look at, at the SoFi Stadium practice, Corey Linsley goes down and leaves the field. And, Scott Quessenberry, he's, God bless him. He's a veteran now. He's been around a long time. He can play, but he's not an all-pro Corey Linsley. And all of a sudden you look, and those positions, when a guy like that goes down, they get really thin really fast. So it's going to come down to, again, trying to stay healthy and trying to as far as like gelling and all that coming together, I don't think that's going to be a problem. They're all veterans except for Slater. They played a lot, and they know how this works. But there's going to be moments where they're going to need some of those second guys to come in and keep it together, and we'll just see if they can do it. But hopefully, it seems like they've taken a little more serious this time around and trying to rebuild the line and invested a little more. So maybe this will be the year that they get a few breaks with injuries, and we can see what a good offensive line looks like.
Yeah, no, definitely, Jeff. And it like you mentioned it right now. I mean, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers. It's kind of crazy that they landed Herbert so quickly after Phillip left. Did you think that this? How long did you really think that this quarterback search was going to go on after Phillip left? I mean, there was so much uncertainty. Like, did you think there would strike? Would lightning would strike again for them in the quarterback position?
It would. You'd think, no way, right? I mean, who's that lucky? But they, think about, if the Dolphins had taken Justin Herbert, and then we all kind of probably assume, right, they would have taken Tua.
Yeah.
And who knows where that would be right now. So they got a break there. It seems like, when the Dolphins decided to take Tua, and Herbert was sitting there just waiting for him. So I don't think anybody, who would have bet that? Right. I mean, Gil, you've worked in Vegas. Like, what would the odds have been? They're very slim. They're going to lose. And, a year ago at this time, we were all writing about the transition between Phillip and Herbert, right? Because we thought it was going to be Tyrod Taylor for a season, and then we know what happened there, and all of a sudden Herbert emerges as this superstar, in the making. So, no, I think, again, I just hope Charger fans, as much as they and understandably lament the injuries and the history of these tough losses and how they have never won a Super Bowl and all that. It's there is a thought, and maybe that it's almost a karma thing where this is what you've got. We keep giving you a quarterback, so you don't have that frustration. I mean, just think of how many NFL cities out there, and all they talk about is how they've never had a quarterback. Well, the Chargers can't say that. Charger fans can't say that. So I think they're really fortunate, and I think they, especially with what Herbert did last year, everybody on that organization understands we got something here. We got to try to win like right now. That's why this team's very interesting. They're not content on just being a pretty good team, and they're trying to win the next couple of years here because they've got a young quarterback on a rookie deal. And this is the time that, and we know that in the NFL, this is the time to try to win is right now for this team.
Yeah, especially because Josh Allen just got paid, and just going to keep on going up and up and up. But all right, we all know Jeff knows the Chargers. That's obvious from his fine stories and reporting at the LA Times. But Jeff also knows long distance running. Jeff, you've been, like we said, you've been all over just covering teams in different cities and everything. What's your favorite city to run in?
Wow, that's the first time anyone's ever asked me that. Which is my way of stalling to try to think of what.
That's what we bring at Compas. We bring those kinds of questions where we're gonna make you think.
Yes, you guys do. You're excellent at that. There's so many good ones. Everyone loves San Francisco. Everyone loves Seattle because you can run on the water. You can run, get in some hills and stuff. Those are great places. What I love doing is I love going, if I'm in St. Louis, I run through the Arch. If I'm in New York, I run to Central Park and run through Central Park. Wherever I am, I try to if there's something to see, I'll try to go do that. If there's waterfront, I'll always try to run toward that. So, those are a few of my favorites. So, we'll see, first trip is to Washington, DC, and hopefully that morning of the game, I can get, I've spent very little time in DC. So my goal for that trip is to get to maybe run by some of these monuments and some stuff I haven't seen. So maybe, if we talk during the season, maybe my answer will change, and maybe Washington, D.C. will be the greatest place ever, because that'll be a new experience for me.
Gilbert, what's funny real quick? Last year, Jeff and I both went to Cincinnati for game 1. And Cincinnati obviously is not the kind of city where Jeff is talking about, like New York and all these other places. Man, when he talked about his morning run that day, he made Cincinnati feel like it was such a beautiful town. He's like, yeah, I went along the riverbed and I did this and that, and like it was so nice out. And I was like, oh wow, like he really painted a picture that I was like, oh my God, it sounds like Cincinnati's a beautiful city. But obviously it's not up there, but the way he paints it just really paints a picture in your head.
Yeah. Jeff, I was gonna say you make me feel like out of shape sometimes, because you tell me every time I just wanted to run, and I'm like, Jeff, how are you waking up so early and still going to Chargers practice?
It's funny. So this is one of my little pet peeves that I have about this is you hear these stories. We all have written these stories, right? Where we write that the guy wakes up at 5 a.m. to go work out, and he's working out in the dark. And this is unbelievable how serious this guy is. Look at this guy. No wonder he's a champion. So whenever I've written those stories. So we all have. Yeah. But all I would say is, if you go to a 24-hour fitness, like anywhere in a decent sized city at 5 a.m., there's people in there and there's people like me in there, because that's the only time you can work out. You've got to get up early and work out in the dark, because otherwise you'll never do it. So, there's a lot of people doing that, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm something amazing, but I get up early. I'll get up when it's still dark and do my thing. But part of that is because I'm so old now, it takes me forever to get warmed up and get loose. And I have my own little activation period I have to go through. So it's some of that's a concession to being old. And then the other thing is, I know that if I try to go to camp and work and then I try to work out after that, there's no way it's going to happen, because I'm going to be falling asleep. So
there's players who have their crop tops. The offensive linemen don't. That's how I feel. I'm on the offensive lineman side. If Jeff was a player, he'd be the Kenneth Murray, the Derwin James with the crop top up, like showing it off, because that's how Jeff is. I'm joining my buddies on the offensive and defensive line that don't like doing that, because they know they ain't got nothing to show.
Well, let's be honest. If I was on a football team, I would be the kicker at best, and there's no way the kicker does not show up with a crop top. So I would, for the record, I would not have a crop top.
Gilbert, I think he wants to talk kickers. I think that's what he's trying to do.
You know what? Yeah, we haven't even asked him about kickers or Little Pickle. All these topics that Jeff loves. So how about we do a rapid fire question? No stalling like on the question about the favorite city to run in, Jeff. So let me give you, on top of my head, 4 questions. Answer real quickly. All right. Better city, Miami area or Los Angeles area?
Miami.
Who's winning the Chargers kicking job?
Tristan Vizcaino.
Best sandwich place in all the world?
Little Pickle, baby. 100%.
There you go. And one more. Who is the greatest baseball player you've ever covered?
Mike Trout.
Boom. Rapid fire.
See, I got the old man's brain still can kind of go a little bit. But I'll be honest with you. I was getting a little sweaty palms. I wasn't sure what you're going to ask me. I was
real quick. I wasn't even sure myself. The last one was like, oh, baseball.
I was sure I was going to choke at some point there and get totally tongue tied. So,
Jeff, before we let you go, you showed us something before we jumped on here. Show us that view. We keep on seeing it, but we need to see that view.
So I need to ask you guys, you young guys, tell me now if when I do this, am I flexing or is this drip?
You're flexing. You're flexing.
Is this flexing?
Oh yeah.
So so drip is more of like, what is that?
Drip is like when you're wearing like
fashion.
Swag, like fashion. Okay. That's drip.
Derwin James has drip.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have so we can safely say I have no drip, but
you can flex.
This is my flex right here. So I'm going to do this. And, oh boy!
Dang.
Look at that. See that, people?
That's nice.
Respect your elders. See that?
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Miller of the LA Times. Jeff, thank you so much for jumping on Compas. We truly appreciate it. And let fans know where they can find your awesome work.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I won't take it personal that I was the last choice that you
main event.
So maybe if we keep going, maybe week 17, 18, whatever, maybe you can get me on one more time. LATimes.com. We have a Charger blog, which we're trying like everybody to try to get as much coverage and so you can go and look at our live blog. I don't know why we call it live because all blogs are live, aren't they? But anyway, it's that's where if you click on that, you go there and there's a page and you can find our blog. It's got the latest stuff on there. And then Jeff Miller, LAT is my handle, right? Say on Twitter. You guys tell me. You guys are doing this. So I'm just kind of
Jeff, we're flexing, we're dripping, we're doing all that. We love it. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you guys. Have a good one. We'll see you out at camp.